and a very good day to everyone watching this video from around the world. Today, we are starting with our second episode of the Value Circle NPO Highlight series. And today, we have Ashish Shrivastav, who is the co founder and also the director of Shikhsharth. Thank you so much, Ashish, for taking out the time today and having a chat with us. Before we even get into the organization, I just want to know more about you and your life journey. How you started this. How did you reach to Shiksharth, and what your journey has been?
Yeah. Hi, Shashwat, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm an engineer by qualification, and I was brought up in a place called Singrauli in Madhya Pradesh, and in a very protected environment, plus a remote one as well. So my exposure to the outside world was pretty limited. And after completing my engineering, during my engineering is when I started to, I started to notice the realities in the world, and then joined corporate and was working with an IT company in Pune. And that's when instead of spending my time enjoying over the weekend, I somehow started teaching to a group of children back in 2005. And that's how my journey started. It started as a hobby, and later on it became more of a mission. And so after I completed my IT, I spent 4 years in the IT sector and joined Teach for India Fellowship for 2 years. And then in 2012, I was working in Delhi when I kind of noticed an interesting pattern that within Delhi, there were in a single school, there were at least 15 to 18 civil society interventions happening. And you move 50 kilometers away from Delhi and there would hardly be any. So my whole hypothesis was that if 70% of India is rural, what are we doing in urban areas? Why so much focus is on urban areas? And with that thought and hypothesis, I left my job again in Delhi. And I decided I'll travel across rural India for a year, and was traveling to Odisha when a friend suggested about this place called Dantewada in Chhattisgarh, and said ki you can visit that. And I came to Dantewada, Sukma in 2012, and I came here for 2 months visit. I never went back. It has been 10 years now. Yeah.
Wow, that's such an inspiring story, and it almost feels like a calling. Like the journey that you started with. It had nothing to do with this non-profit world or to the cause that you're working with, but something in you, like from teaching to then exploring more of India, rural India, you kind of figured that this is what you really want to do. And I just want to understand how was it, because I'm sure, like especially with most people and families, leaving corporate and joining this sector is not something that a lot of families support, right? Especially when you're young. So how did your friends or close friends or family, react when you said that this is something that you would want to go away probably from the corporate sector and join the social sector?
So when I was working in Pune with Infosys and simultaneously I was teaching children, right. My family kind of had a slight orientation about my inclinations and choices. So it was not that big shocker for them when I decided to settle in, when I started working in Chhattisgarh. So right. It was a very organic process. There was not one day event that happened. So I started teaching in Pune in slums. Then I left my IT job, became a full-time teacher. So they were used to, and they were used to those choices. So my moving to Chhattisgarh, obviously it was a surprise for people, but it was not a shock for at least for family. For friends and all, when I had left my job at IT and moved to teaching, they all were worried about the future, but eventually they kind of again understood the inclination. With respect to Sukma, yes, that they're still confused. I mean, even today, a lot of people ask my friends, "Ki abhi ho gaya 10 saal ho gaye, you can come back, and why are you working there?" But that is okay. I mean,
Sure.
we respond with a smile.
Of course, there's something that you see and feel that others can't. And which brings me to your organization, Shikhsharth. If you could tell more about your organization and the kind of work you've been doing with the kids, that'd be really nice.
So when I came here in 2012, I didn't know the context of the geography. I was traveling across India. I knew it was a difficult geography, but I didn't knew the socio-political aspect. So the multidimensionality of the problem, I didn't know about it. I was like,
Sure.
okay, I'm going to teach tribal children.
I'm so sorry to
But
cut your flow, but if you could also tell the listeners that what
what
exactly
I'm
is the
doing.
process. Yeah,
I'm coming to that. So
sure.
so basically in 2015 we were in a classroom and we asked children to draw at free will, anything that they want to. And usually as a child, I would have drawn a beautiful scenery or bat or ball or flowers. But 47 out of 53 children in that class, it was a grade 4 classroom, had sketched a combat scene. So that's what we do. We work with children who come from spaces of conflict and adversity. And how do we work? We work on 3 issues. Summarizing, we call it positive childhood experiences for children in conflict areas. And we work in 3 issues primarily. First is access to safe spaces. How does a child experience compassion, empathy? How do we convert schools and communities as safe spaces? The second is access to schools itself. How do we bring children to school? And the third is how do we contextualize the learning process for them. A for aeroplane doesn't make any sense for a tribal child. So instead of teaching A for aeroplane, I'll teach A for arrow. Arrow is something that a child understands. So primarily these 3 issues around children, and we call it positive childhood experiences. So Shikhsharth develops and implements positive childhood experiences for children coming from spaces of conflict and adverse geographies. That's what we do.
Wow. And because you're not from there, you're not really from Sukma. So like was it hard for you to build that team that would be able to, support and like work on the mission of this organization? How did that go for you?
That challenge is that has been the primary challenge for us even after 10 years. So I call this journey as leadership when you are a nobody. So we didn't go with a CSR project, or we didn't go with the support of a bureaucrat or an IS officer. There was no government partnership. I'm not a local. So absolutely no connection, and you're totally nobody. I mean, you might be from Infosys, you might be Teach for India and all that stuff. But the usual notion is when you're working, most of the world is moving from villages to cities, and here is this person who is moving from cities to a jungle. So people don't trust you, and you have to build credibility. So I've spent in initial 2-3 years a lot of my time in building credibility, doing simple things, writing English for them. The whole district doesn't know how to converse in English, doing things in English, doing basic things, uploading photographs in Google Drive, creating email IDs, teachers training. So we took a lot of time in building that relationship, and obviously then pitching it out to the outside world about the need and the opportunity to learn for youngsters. So we have so far managed to bring in people, but it is still a challenge. We still struggle with getting high competency levels
Right.
of human of team members, but that is okay. Yeah.
Sure. And in what you said, you mentioned that because CSR would not be an ideal place for you to get funding. Uh, so how do you manage to keep the organization alive and running, and how do you raise funds for your organization?
So I have been blessed with some really good friends, and so 60% of our funding has mostly come from individual donors.
Wow.
And because I have a corporate background and I was socially very active always, so I have been in touch with my school friends, college friends, anybody whom I have met. That is something that I have been good at. So individuals have supported our work initially and till date as well. We still have limited institutional funding, but purely by word of mouth, we have whatever institutional funding we have got in terms of CSR or foundations is through individuals. So basically, a lot of time is spent on relationship building and engaging with people is what I do. Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, even in this world, networking is everything. Is what I'm getting.
Not net. I won't call it networking. I'll say that relationship management. Because networking is when you are going to new places and meeting new people. I mean, we don't get that opportunity, but then whatever people we knew or we had in our contact list, I mean, they have slowly become our ambassadors. So
it's more of managing those relationships.
Strengthening those relationships and building that trust. Yeah.
Right. And just on a personal level, I mean, if I were to ask you, what is it that since you've been working with Shikhsharth you founded this organization, like how has it impacted you as a person, at your personal level, and just want to understand more on that.
So I mean, me or my wife or my core team members, we always say that we have learned more than what we have done here. So it has been a learning journey. It has helped us understand many things. First of all, it has helped us value life. It has helped us in differentiating between what we want and what we need.
Right.
Then it has helped us understand that social change is a slow organic process. You can do projects, but it will not bring in social change. Social change always comes through immersion. So basically you have to immerse with your people. Proximity to the cause is something that is important. And plus obviously we I think we are good with understanding how policies look on ground. I mean, that is one skill that I would say we have acquired. I mean, people design brilliant best of the policies, but they collapse, and we understand why. Though we are not heard that much, but that is okay. But then we have a great understanding of what the communities actually, where they struggle with implementation of policies. So these are the few things. I mean, yeah.
Interesting. And any new initiative this year that you're planning to expand on with the organization?
So, I mean, more than, I mean, initiatives, yes, it keeps happening. I mean, the initiative-wise, one thing that we are adding this year is ecology curriculum. We have already started working on it. We were like indigenous communities are the best knowledge base when it comes to conservation of nature, and unfortunately they are the least represented, whereas the world should be learning from them how to manage biodiversity, how to coexist with biodiversity. So we are trying to document their wisdom and present it as a curriculum for children across the world. This is one initiative. Second is what we are doing more towards narrative building. So we are saying that I don't have that lived experience. I'm not from Chhattisgarh. I'm not from Bastar. So I'm doing this session and I'm sharing my interpretation of their life. What it would be wonderful if they do this conversation with you and share about their life. So we are creating different avenues and platforms through which the children and the community youth of Batsar itself can talk to the outside world without any intermediary like me.
Wow.
So that is one thing that we have. So we have recently started a digital magazine called Hakum. Hakum means dhol in the local dialect, and That magazine is completely the content is completely created by the children and youth of Bastar, and all we are doing is designing and sharing. So we are saying that get a glimpse of Bastar through the lens of the community itself and not through our lens.
Wow.
So these are two significant things that we are doing.
Yeah. And if I'm not wrong, you just shared one like few hours ago. And I just received it, and I was just curious to see what's there inside it. But I never knew that it's the children, who are actually making all the content. In. So I think that's very impactful, especially helping them building those skills and that ownership in them. I think that really goes a long way. So hats off to you and all your team core members who have been working on this initiative. If I were to ask you approximately how many people do you think have been impacted by the kind of work that you've been doing for the past few years?
I don't think we have impacted anybody. It's a very vague term. There is no definition of impact. But I mean, we have served more than 3.5 lakh children, out of which 50,000 children have been from the region itself. So impact is a very, very. I mean, I think will take 10 to 15 years to make that impact when the child grows to become an adult and is believing and practicing in peace and non-violence. That is when our impact will happen. So I won't say impact, but yeah, we do have milestones and numbers and all that stuff that we pitch to the donors, but then we still call it the number of children that we have served.
Wow. And thank you so much today, Ashish, for having this conversation. I think for me, it's more of a learning through this conversation, and the way you put your words, it's very inspirational, for the kind of work that you're doing. And always wishing you all the best. And thank you so much for having to come on this show today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.